Marcus Rodriguez had lived in Oakwood Estates for 7 years, a quiet suburban neighborhood known for its meticulously maintained lawns and strict homeowners association. A software engineer and single father to 10-year-old Alina, he had always been a model resident. His modest home sat on a corner lot, and he took pride in keeping his property neat and welcoming. Little did he know that his quiet life was about to be shattered by Diane Hartwell, the neighborhood's most notorious HOA board member, a woman locals had not so affectionately dubbed HOA Karen. The trouble began on a crisp Saturday morning in May when Marcus completed his backyard vegetable garden. Raised wooden beds lined with carefully selected organic soil contained a vibrant array of tomatoes, peppers, zucchini, and herbs. Elena had helped him plant each seedling, learning about sustainable gardening and the joy of growing their own food. The garden was a carefully planned project. Raised beds were uniform, edges were trimmed, and not a single weed dared to peek through the mulch. Diane Hartwell first noticed the garden during her routine neighborhood patrol. A retired accountant in her mid-60s, she had made it her personal mission to maintain what she called the aesthetic integrity of Oakwood Estates. Her silver Mercedes SUV would slowly crawl down the street, her eyes scanning every property for the slightest imperfection. That afternoon, Marcus received a certified letter with the Oakwood Estates HOA letterhead. In precisely typed text, Diane outlined multiple violations: unauthorized agricultural installation, non-conforming landscape feature, and potential property value deterioration. The letter demanded the immediate removal of the garden and threatened fines starting at $500 per day of non-compliance. Marcus was stunned. He had carefully reviewed the HOA bylaws before creating the garden. The document contained no explicit prohibition against vegetable gardens, only vague language about maintaining uniform landscaping appearance. His beds were more meticulously maintained than most of the perfectly manicured lawns in the neighborhood. He drafted a polite response including detailed photographs showing the garden's neat design, measurements proving it met all setback requirements, and a summary of how the garden actually enhanced the property's appearance. Elena helped him organize the documentation, her neat handwriting adding labels to the photographs. When the response was sent, Marcus believed reasonable communication would prevail. He had always been a model resident. His lawn was perfectly trimmed, his house paint was within approved color ranges, and he'd never received a previous violation. But Diane Hartwell was not interested in reason. Within a week, she began making weekly inspections of his property. She would arrive unannounced, a measuring tape in hand, wearing pristine white gloves and a crisp blazer. Each visit resulted in a new violation notice, sometimes for the garden, sometimes for microscopic variations in grass height or the precise angle of his trash cans. The notices became increasingly absurd. One cited a 0.5-inch deviation in front yard border symmetry. Another complained about a non-regulation garden hose coiling technique. Marcus began to realize this was no longer about community standards. This was a personal vendetta. Alina started to notice the tension. She would watch her father carefully document each interaction, his calm demeanor masking a growing determination. "Why does she keep doing this, Dad?" she asked one evening as Marcus photographed yet another ridiculous violation notice. Sometimes Major Marcus would reply, "People in small positions of power forget what's really important." Little did Marcus know that this was just the beginning of a conflict that would expose deep-rooted issues within the Oakwood Estates HOA and ultimately change the entire community forever. The first signs were subtle. Elena had been complaining about the water's taste for days, her usual enthusiasm for cooking dinner dampened by strange chemical undertones. Marcus initially dismissed it as a potential issue with her home's plumbing, perhaps a problem with the water filter. One Wednesday evening changed everything. Elena was preparing a salad for their dinner, using water from the kitchen tap to rinse the vegetables. "Dad," she called out, her nose wrinkling, "something's really wrong with the water." Marcus took a glass from the cabinet, filled it, and brought it close to his face. The smell hit him immediately, a sharp, acrid odor that was distinctly unnatural. He contacted the local water department the next morning. The initial test results were alarming. Trace amounts of a chemical compound not typically found in municipal water supplies had been detected. The technician sounded concerned but guarded, suggesting Marcus have his water independently tested. Marcus knew exactly where to turn. His college friend, Dr. Rachel Chen, worked at an environmental testing laboratory. When he dropped off the water samples, her initial reaction was grave. "These aren't just trace amounts, Marcus," she told him privately, her professional demeanor giving way to genuine worry. "Someone deliberately introduced these chemicals into your water supply." The forensic analysis revealed a cocktail of compounds, a mix of herbicides and industrial-grade cleaning agents that would never naturally appear in drinking water. More disturbing was the precise location of contamination. The chemicals had been introduced at the external water connection near Marcus' property line, suggesting a calculated and intentional act. Elena became Marcus' primary concern. He immediately switched the family to bottled water, having her checked by their pediatrician to ensure no long-term effects from potential exposure. Dr. Martinez ran a comprehensive blood panel, documenting everything meticulously. As the investigation progressed, Marcus began connecting the dots. The water contamination coincided perfectly with the escalating conflict with Diane Hartwell. Her vendetta against his vegetable garden had transformed into something far more sinister. Each piece of evidence pointed to a deliberate attempt to force him out of the neighborhood, or worse. He started documenting everything: security camera footage from around his property, water test results, medical records, and a comprehensive timeline of interactions with the HOA. Marcus knew that to fight this, he would need more than just circumstantial evidence. The neighborhood began to take notice. Whispers spread about the Rodriguez family's water issues. Some neighbors avoided eye contact, while others seemed genuinely concerned. Marcus overheard snippets of conversation, rumors about Diane Hartwell's previous conflicts, hushed discussions about her reputation for vindictiveness. Elena remained his source of strength. Despite the stress, she maintained her resilience. "We're going to be okay, right, Dad?" she would ask, helping him organize the growing stack of documents. Marcus would squeeze her hand. "Absolutely, Manja. We're going to be more than okay." Late one night, as Marcus reviewed the water test results again, he made a decision. This was no longer just about a garden or a petty HOA dispute. This was about protecting his daughter, their home, and their fundamental right to safety. The next step would require careful planning, ironclad evidence, and a strategy that would expose the truth once and for all. Marcus approached his investigation like the methodical software engineer he was, with precision, patience, and technological savvy. His first step was to create a comprehensive documentation system that would withstand the most rigorous legal scrutiny. He installed a sophisticated security camera network around his property, carefully positioning high-resolution cameras with night vision capabilities. Each camera was networked to a secure cloud storage system, ensuring that no footage could be tampered with or deleted. The system captured not just video, but timestamp-verified metadata that would prove crucial in building his case. Dr. Rachel Chen became an unexpected ally. Through her environmental lab connections, she helped Marcus connect with a network of professionals who could provide expert testimony. She introduced him to James Holloway, a retired forensic investigator with decades of experience in complex environmental cases. "Your documentation is everything," James told Marcus during their first meeting. HOA boards like this operate in the shadows. They rely on intimidation and the assumption that most homeowners will back down. Marcus began compiling a comprehensive dossier. He created a detailed timeline of every interaction with Diane Hartwell, cross-referencing HOA communication with his own documented experiences. Old emails, certified letters, violation notices, each piece of paper became a breadcrumb leading to a larger story of harassment. The neighborhood itself became an unexpected source of information. Though many residents were initially hesitant to speak out, Marcus's calm persistence began to yield results. During neighborhood gatherings at the local park or through carefully worded conversations, he discovered he wasn't Diane's first target. An elderly couple, the Petersons, shared their own story of HOA harassment from 5 years earlier. They had been threatened with massive fines for planting native wildflowers instead of traditional grass. Another homeowner, Mark Thompson, revealed how Diane had once forced him to repaint his entire house because the color was 2 shades off the approved palette. Elena played a crucial role in this investigation. Her tech-savvy skills, inherited from her father, helped organize the digital evidence. She created spreadsheets tracking violation notices, set up secure cloud backups of all documentation, and helped her father maintain a meticulous chain of evidence. The water contamination investigation became their primary focus. Marcus worked with a network of environmental experts to trace the chemical compounds found in their water. Each test, each analysis was carefully documented. He discovered a pattern. The chemicals used were consistent with industrial-grade herbicides that Diane's landscaping company frequently used. Local records became another treasure trove of information. Marcus spent weeks combing through public documents, HOA meeting minutes, and property records. He discovered that Diane had significant financial interests in local landscaping and property management companies, a potential conflict of interest that had gone unnoticed by the community. As the evidence mounted, Marcus began to see a larger picture emerging. This wasn't just about a garden or a single act of vandalism. This was a systematic pattern of abuse enabled by a lack of oversight and a culture of intimidation within the HOA. One evening, as Marcus and Elena reviewed their collected evidence, she looked up at her father with a mix of admiration and concern. "Dad, are you scared?" she asked. Marcus smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Knowledge is power, Mija, and right now we have more power than they ever expected." The Rodriguez family was no longer just defending themselves. They were preparing to fight for every homeowner who had ever been bullied by a power-hungry HOA board member. The Rodriguez family's lawsuit landed like a thunderbolt in the quiet suburban landscape of Oakwood Estates. Marcus had carefully selected attorney Elena Ramirez, a civil rights lawyer known for her tenacity in taking on institutional bullies. Her reputation preceded her, a former public defender with an impressive track record of holding powerful entities accountable. Their first meeting was strategic. Marcus laid out every piece of evidence with surgical precision. Water test results, documented harassment, financial records showing Diane's conflicts of interest. Each document told a story of systematic abuse. Elena Ramirez listened intently, her legal mind already constructing the framework of their case. "This isn't just about water contamination," she told Marcus. "This is about a pattern of intentional harassment and abuse of power." The lawsuit named both Diane Hartwell individually and the Oakwood Estates Homeowners Association as defendants. The legal strategy was multi-pronged: environmental damages, intentional infliction of emotional distress, abuse of administrative power, and potential criminal charges for water contamination. Local media caught wind of the story, transforming it from a neighborhood dispute to a broader conversation about HOA overreach. Investigative reporters began digging deeper, uncovering a history of similar complaints against Diane that had previously been swept under the rug. Depositions became a battleground of truth. Diane's carefully constructed facade began to crumble under rigorous questioning. Her attempts to maintain a composed demeanor revealed a pattern of vindictiveness. Text messages, emails, and testimony from other homeowners painted a damning picture of her leadership style. The most compelling testimony came from unexpected sources. The Petersons, the elderly couple Marcus had previously spoken with, came forward with their own documented experiences. Mark Thompson provided additional evidence of Diane's long-standing pattern of harassment. What had once been isolated incidents now formed a comprehensive narrative of systematic abuse. Elena Rodriguez became an unexpected star witness. Her straightforward account of how the water contamination had affected their family life struck a chord. Her testimony about the stress and fear caused by Diane's actions humanized the legal proceedings. Dr. Rachel Chen's environmental expertise proved crucial. Her forensic analysis of the water samples provided scientific credibility to Marcus's claims. She meticulously explained how the chemical compounds found were not accidental but deliberately introduced. The HOA's legal team attempted multiple strategies to derail the lawsuit. They filed motions to dismiss, challenged the credibility of witnesses, and tried to paint Marcus as a troublemaker, but each attempt only seemed to strengthen the Rodriguez family's case. Financial records became a critical piece of evidence. Investigators discovered that Diane had significant financial interests in local landscaping and property management companies, a clear conflict of interest that violated multiple ethical standards. As the case progressed, other homeowners began to come forward. What had once been a culture of fear was transforming into a collective stand against abuse. Support for the Rodriguez family grew, with community members attending court hearings and sharing their own stories of HOA harassment. Marcus remained calm throughout the process. Each deposition, each court appearance was an opportunity to expose the truth. He knew the case was about more than just his family. It was about protecting the rights of homeowners everywhere. One evening, as they prepared for a crucial court hearing, Elena looked up at her father. "Are we going to win?" she asked. Marcus smiled, squeezing her hand. "We're already winning, Major, by standing up and telling the truth." The courtroom fell silent as the judge delivered the verdict. Diane Hartwell was found guilty of multiple charges, including intentional harassment, abuse of administrative power, and environmental tampering. The judgment was comprehensive and unequivocal. A complete vindication for Marcus and Elena Rodriguez. The financial penalties were substantial. Diane was ordered to pay significant damages to the Rodriguez family, with additional fines levied by the court for her systematic abuse of HOA power. Her landscaping business licenses were suspended, and she was permanently removed from any HOA leadership positions, not just in Oakwood Estates, but countywide. More importantly, the case triggered a comprehensive review of HOA regulations in their county. The Rodriguez lawsuit became a landmark case that would protect countless other homeowners from similar abuses. Local government officials began drafting new guidelines to prevent HOA board members from wielding unchecked power. The community of Oakwood Estates underwent a profound transformation. Homeowners who had previously been too afraid to speak out now found their voices. A new HOA board was elected with transparency and fairness as its primary principles. Mark Thompson and the Petersons were among those elected, bringing their experiences of past harassment to leadership roles. Marcus used a portion of the settlement to establish the Homeowner Protection Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to providing legal resources for homeowners facing HOA harassment. Elena helped design the organization's website and social media strategy, turning her personal struggle into a broader mission of community support. The media attention brought unexpected opportunities. Marcus was invited to speak at conferences about HOA reform, sharing their story to raise awareness about institutional bullying. His calm, methodical approach became a model for other homeowners fighting similar battles. Alina's experience transformed her as well. The ordeal had shown her the power of documentation, persistence, and standing up to injustice. She became increasingly interested in law and community activism, her school projects often focusing on civic engagement and consumer rights. During a community meeting 6 months after the trial, Marcus reflected on their journey. "This was never about winning," he told the gathered residents. "This was about creating a community where everyone feels safe, respected, and heard." The Rodriguez family's home became a symbol of resilience. The vegetable garden that had initially sparked Diane's vendetta now flourished, a vibrant testament to their strength. Elena had expanded the garden, adding native plants that attracted local wildlife and served as an educational space for neighborhood children. Their story rippled far beyond Oakwood Estates. Local news features, podcast interviews, and even a potential documentary brought national attention to HOA reform. Other communities began implementing similar oversight mechanisms inspired by the Rodriguez family's courage. On the anniversary of the court verdict, Marcus and Elena planted a new tree in their backyard, a symbol of growth, resilience, and hope. Their neighbor, an elderly woman who had witnessed their entire struggle, brought over homemade lemonade to celebrate. "You changed everything," she told them, her eyes bright with emotion. Elena looked up at her father, a maturity beyond her years in her expression. "We did it together," she said. Marcus smiled, knowing that their fight was about more than just one family. It was about justice, community, and the power of standing up for what's right. The landscape of community governance had irrevocably changed, and the Rodriguez family stood at the epicenter of that transformation. 5 years after their landmark lawsuit, Marcus found himself in a position he never could have imagined: a respected voice in municipal governance and community advocacy. The Homeowner Protection Foundation had grown far beyond its initial scope. What began as a local initiative had become a national resource, with chapters in 47 states and a robust online platform helping homeowners navigate complex HOA regulations. Marcus traveled frequently, speaking at conferences, legislative hearings, and community workshops about institutional accountability. Elena, now a junior in high school, had become a passionate advocate in her own right. Her science fair project, a comprehensive study on community power structures and citizen rights, had won state-level honors. More importantly, it caught the attention of several legal and social science departments at top universities. Diane Hartwell's life had unraveled completely. Her landscaping business never recovered from the lawsuit. She faced ongoing civil litigation from other homeowners who were emboldened by the Rodriguez family's victory. The once feared HOA board member was now a cautionary tale, her name synonymous with abuse of power. The Oakwood Estates neighborhood had transformed. The new HOA board, led by a diverse group of homeowners, implemented radical transparency measures. Monthly meetings were live-streamed, all financial records were publicly accessible, and a community ombudsman was appointed to handle resident complaints. Ironically, Marcus's vegetable garden had become a neighborhood landmark. What once sparked controversy was now a community teaching space. Local schools brought students to learn about sustainable gardening, and the garden had expanded to include a small greenhouse and composting area. Dr. Rachel Chen continued to be a close family friend and professional ally. Her environmental research, partially inspired by the Rodriguez case, had led to significant changes in local environmental protection policies. She and Marcus occasionally collaborated on community science projects, bridging academic research with grassroots activism. The legal precedents set by their case had far-reaching implications. 3 states had already passed Rodriguez Act legislation, which provided stronger protections for homeowners against HOA overreach. Legal scholars were writing case studies about how a single family's persistence could create systemic change. During a family dinner one evening, Marcus looked at Elena with a mixture of pride and reflection. "You know," he said, "this was never just about winning against Diane or saving our garden." Elena smiled, understanding the deeper meaning. It was about showing that one family can make a difference. Their home remained a beacon of resilience, the vegetable garden flourishing, solar panels glinting on the roof, a small plaque near the front door commemorating their journey. It was more than just a house now. It was a symbol of hope, of standing up against injustice, of the power of principled resistance. The water that once threatened to poison their lives now nourished a garden of possibility, a testament to the Rodriguez family's unwavering spirit.